when you battle something for that long and you go back to a spot that many times and you finally make it, it's like there's no better feeling, there really isn't.
What's up, everybody? I am joined with Dakota Roche, and we are going to talk about the Nativeland video series. Dakota, how are you?
I'm doing good. Just, dealing with the COVID thing like everybody else and trying to stay on my bike. So yeah, same as it ever was.
You just dropped Nativeland 4. Excellent work. We'll get into that a bit more later. But just to start things off, could you give us a rundown of what Nativeland is exactly?
Yeah. So, I think back in 2013, I had hurt my knee really bad and I had to get surgery. And when I started like feeling better and I was back on my bike, like Vish and I started just like filming, like stacking clips, because I was like, dude, I need to get back on my bike. I need to, I was like so motivated after getting hurt that we were just like filming, and things were working out really well. And we didn't really have a place for those clips. So it was like, oh, let's start working on like your own part or your own edit, And I started like thinking a little bit further into it. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like things come and go so quick on the internet that it'd be cool if something had like a name and something where it's like, oh, did you see Nativeland? Oh, it's like, instead of like, oh, did you see Dak's new edit? It's like something that kind of like, I don't know, kind of kept it like more permanent, like a actual video part and less of an edit. So, yeah. So, and the name came from basically everything. 99.9% of every trick in all 4 videos was all filmed in California, and this is where I'm from, it's my native land. So, yeah, it's like, I don't know. I just think about like, even like the imagery that I use in some of this stuff. It's like in Nativeland 4, it's like, it's the poppy, it's the California state flower. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, just kind of tying it back to my roots, I guess.
When you initially started the first Nativeland, you already kind of had a series in mind, or did the series idea kind of come after the fact?
The series idea came after. It was like that one, I think it worked out really well, and we were like really stoked on the feedback we got from it. And then it just gave me an excuse. It's like anytime that I was home and Vish was available, it just gave me an excuse to film. It was like, now I always have something to film for. If you think about it, when I'm home, it's like, oh, frame promo's done. Oh, Vans project's done. All right, Nativeland, let's do it. So it's like, it gave me an excuse to stay busy. And for me, it's like so mentally beneficial to have something to work on constantly. It's like, I just, I feel so much better when I'm like, putting my heart and soul into something. So yeah, it started as just like a single video, and then it's like, now it's 4. That was never really my intention, but yeah, I'm stoked either way.
So Vish has been behind the camera on all of these videos. How involved are you on the overall creative side of things, the editing, the music choice?
More on this than most other projects I've been involved with. And I think that was like, from the get-go, I think Vish saw that like I was really passionate about these projects. So like he kind of allowed me to like chime in, and him and I work so well together in that sense. Like neither of us really get offended by one another's comments, where it's like, hey dude, like, obviously, yeah, there might be 5 minutes where it's like, damn dude, I think that this looks good and you think it looks bad, like whatever. But we always end up like working it out pretty good. And we've been friends for like almost 20 years now. So we have that like, kind of that brotherhood. So yeah, like the music and everything, it's like when I'm out searching for spots, normally for Nativeland parts and projects, I'm also searching for music. So it's like when things jump out at me, it's like, oh my God, like it all ties back, it's like I'm searching for spots to get tricks for this part, and now I'm searching for music. And he's takes all my feedback and we kind of work on it together. The editing's like very much like, I don't know, cohesive, I guess. Is that the word?
So let's dive right into it. Talk about Nativeland 1. Nativeland 1 came out in February of 2014. I believe you were 26 years old at the time.
Yeah.
What do you remember? What do you remember about that time in your life?
Like I said earlier, just like coming straight off of like my first like major injury, I tweaked my knee really bad, and I actually, shoot, you know what? I'd gotten surgery in March of 2013, and then I was back on my bike in, I think, July. So we started filming for it in July, August, and my knee still was kind of funky, like it didn't feel good, and I ended up having to get another surgery in the end of December that same year to clean it all out. But that only took me out for like 2 weeks. So it was like I was basically filming up to that point, got the knee surgery, got the clean out, and then started filming again 2 weeks later. So I just remember like just I felt so fired up and recharged after the injury, because it made me realize how much I love BMX and how much I love putting my heart and soul into these projects, and you know, just really solidified that for me. It's like I care so much about this that I just want to put everything I have into it. So I just remember being super fired up and ready to keep swinging.
I like that Nativeland 1 starts in Huntington Beach, which is obviously your local area, and it kind of seems like the series evolves into showing more other parts of California as it moves forward. Was that kind of a conscious decision to want to get Huntington Beach in there, or is that just kind of how it worked out because you obviously said it wasn't going to be a series to begin with?
Oh, it's so funny that you brought that up. I never thought about it that way. Like the opening shot literally is the beach and the pier and everything. And even though I didn't, I never expected this to be any sort of like series or anything. It was like I wanted to shine light on where it all started for me, I guess. Even if it was just for that one part, it was like, dude, I've been riding by the pier for as long as I've been on a bike. And, still, I think the other thing that's cool about it is like, it doesn't matter where you ride and how much you ride something, you could still come up with new things there. So like I'd never 360'd over that rail, and I was like, dude, let's start the line here. And it just like you said, it's funny that it turned into like, now it's like a lot of the tricks are, a couple hours away from home, coming into the fourth Nativeland. So it's kind of funny. That's I never thought about that. It's cool.
One thing in the Nativeland series, a lot of the music is kind of obscure. I just mean in the sense of it's not very known bands, but this video uses a Rolling Stones song. Is that something that was was that weird at the time to use such a major artist, or is it just kind of a different time in BMX before the internet was policed and everything was crazy with music?
Great question. I think like I've kind of always loved the Rolling Stones, and I never had the opportunity to like ride to one of their songs. So that song just like really, I remember during my my recovery from my injury, I was listening to that song a lot, and it was just like it brought me happiness and joy, and I was just like, if I ever have the opportunity to use this song, I'm going to use it. So so that's kind of where it came from. And then later on, coming into the second Nativeland, it started getting, you started getting like, videos, your videos were flagged if you used bands that you didn't clear. So we had to be a little bit more professional about it from there. But since then we've kind of gone off the path again too, into a world of uncleared music. So
a couple standout clips from Nativeland 1 that you had mentioned to me. The first one stood out to me as well when I was watching it, and that's because I don't think of you as much of a crank arm guy, but you do a nollie to crank arm grind in this. And you mentioned that stood out to you as well. What about that clip is special to you?
So by then I had done like a couple different nollie tricks on real rails. I think I had done like a nollie ice and a nollie crook. But nollie grinds on real rails were still like relatively untapped for me. Like I wasn't really doing it all the time, and I'd never seen anybody do a nollie crank arm. And I was like, dude, that would probably look so cool, because you push off the front and then you got to get sideways before you get on the rail. And I just had it in my head, and I don't know, like you said, I'm really not good at crank arm grinds. Even to this day, I try them so much, and I just don't get better at them. But I figured, I'm like, dude, this rail's short enough. Like I could at least jump at it and see what happens. I'm going to hit something. And it ended up working out. And that was like right at the end of filming for that project. So it was like, I think that might've been one of the last things we filmed, because I remember I got one other trick that same day in that part. I did the 180 ice on the rail against the wall. And yeah, it was like, I don't know. I think I was really motivated too, because it was like towards the end of that project and I was really stoked on what we had. And I was like, just want to get a couple more things, and nollie crank arm, I don't know, just jumped in my mind. I was like, I got to try it. So yeah.
Throwing it back to that video coming out in 2014, it's hard for me to actually put my finger on it, but I'm willing to bet I had not seen a nollie crank arm grind on a real street rail in 2014. That was probably the first one.
I can't say if it was the first one or not, but like, I guess the way I could describe it is I had never seen it done before. Like, I don't even know if I'd really even seen it on like a skate park rail or anything like at that time. I could be wrong, and I'm not claiming to be the first to do it, but I do know for a fact that I'd never seen anybody do it yet prior to that day. So
right after that clip, it goes into a clip of a forest stair with a short rail lit up at night, which is kind of rare for Nativeland. Nativeland's primarily daytime footage, so it's kind of rare to see a lit up night clip in there. And you do a 180 over tooth to 180, essentially a 360 over with the old front peg banger in there. What makes this clip stand out to you?
That was another trick that I'd never seen. I think I had done it on like a skate park rail, like a bank with an up rail, and I did like the very end of it, and I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to do that on a real rail. And this was like probably not even a year after Garrett's Ender in the Deadline video. He did the 360 tooth, but he did it on the inside, not the outside. I was like, oh, I'd be so sick to do it on the outside, like, and it's funny that you brought up, I'm pretty sure that's the only trick in all of the videos that was actually lit up with a generator. I think everything else was during the day other than that trick. And, I remember that night clear as day, no pun intended. But Timmy Theus was in town and he was filming some stuff, and me and Vish and him were just out, and I was like, I'd driven by that rail, and it's small. Like, I don't need to sugarcoat. It's a small rail, but it made sense for that trick because I didn't know how long you can grind backwards and still spin out. I figured it needed to be quick. So it's like, let's just try it there. And it's in a Starbucks parking lot, so it's always packed. There's always cars right there. So I'm like, we got to wait till pretty late to light it up, and we ended up lighting it up, and it ended up working out. And I had to body slam the concrete pretty hard a few times to get it though, because like I said, I didn't really know how to go about it because I'd only done it on like up stuff out of banks. I'd never done it down anything, so it was weird to figure out. And even the one I rolled away from, I was like still surprised. Like, I almost wanted to like take my foot off or something. Like I wasn't ready to land it. So yeah, I don't know. And that was kind of, again, after getting hurt and then like coming back from an injury and like doing tricks that you'd never done before, it's just like, it feels so good, so that really stands out to me.
It is a short rail, but you slid a good amount of it for that being the only one you've ever done. It actually turned out really good.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I've only done a couple since then. In Nativeland 2, there's another one, but I haven't done one since then. I need to bring it back.
All right, so moving on to Nativeland 2. Nativeland 2 came out in August of 2015, so a year and a few months after Nativeland 1. You were 28 years old at the time. Do you remember what exactly happened in the time between 1 and 2?
Between 1 and 2, I started working on Vans Illustrated. We started going like pretty hard on filming trips for that, and that was taking up a good amount of my time. And that's the thing. It's like the timeline of these projects, they don't really make sense. They're not linear at all. Some of them have a couple years between them. Others have like whatever, a little bit of closer time. And it's because like, dude, sometimes it's a lot to juggle with the traveling and then finding the spots and going out and getting the tricks and injuries and all those things. So I just remember like wanting to like put a lot of time and effort into filming for Illustrated. So it was like that kind of got put on the back burner for a little bit. So yeah.
So I really like the first clip in this video. It's almost like a rhythm section of rail hops.
I love that clip.
That clip always stood out to me as one of the cooler things. It's just really an unexpected visual when you're watching a street clip, you know, and you make it look good and just fast and high speed. And it's really kind of a unique, very Dakota-esque clip, in my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember man, it's so crazy. Like when you film for video parts, I feel like your memory is so much stronger because you're so hyper focused on what's going on. So it's like, I remember that day really well too. Calvin Kosovich filmed that line, actually. Vish filmed the roll in, and then Calvin filmed the fisheye. And I just remember like I really wanted that line to work, but I was having a hard time because it was hard to make the turn after the overtooth. You're going fast and you have to like swerve out and swerve in. And then I think it's 4 rail hops. I can't remember off the top, but the 4th one I wall rode, or the 3rd one. And I remember I like had gotten to the last one other time and I didn't do the wall ride. Like I kind of got shook at the end and I didn't do it. I was like, oh man. But yeah, I was really stoked that line worked out. And it kind of worked out perfect for the beginning of the part, because it's like, it's kind of unexpected. It's like a handrail and all of a sudden I turn around the corner and then it's like essentially like going back to my roots of riding jumps, you know?
It's rare to have a street clip that actually has that flow to it. It's just a different style of riding, you know, that you don't usually see at a school.
Yeah, I'm always looking for those types of setups too. Like anytime I could use like handicap hops and handrails and wall rides all together, count me in. I'm down.
One thing that stood out to me in this when I initially watched it is I remember thinking that this is one of the first times I had seen graphics that I knew you made. Now, I could be way off, that you could have done it on many projects before this, but was this one of the first, or was this just the first time I paid attention?
Dude, another good point. Good observation, Kyle. Yeah, that is the first graphic that I've ever done in a video, actually, and I didn't even think about that. So, yeah.
From Nativeland 2 to van shirts that are sold in the mall, this started all of it.
Yeah, I think like drawing for me has always been like, it's always been there when I've needed it. And I think like I said, I was traveling a lot during that time and I was drawing a lot on the plane. So like I'd come up with a font that I really like to use. I still use it to this day, and it's what I use to write my name. And yeah, I just was like, oh, it'd be cool to like throw that in there, you know, just to give it a little bit more flavor. And that video stands out of all 4 of them to me as like, well, I can't really say that because they all have my personal touches, but that I hand wrote everything, even like the filmers' names and the music and everything. And yeah, I think that one I was like, you know what? I think the first one went so well that the second one I was like, dude, I just want to put more into it. You know, I want to put more. I want to put more creativity into it. I want to have more, you know, I want to work with Vish closer and whatever. So, so yeah, that kind of kept that going for sure.
This was one of the last videos you put out in which you were still riding a cassette hub.
You're right.
Does that bring back fond memories, or is that something you're happy is a thing of the past?
No, to be honest, I'm still impartial. Like I like having more options with the free coaster. Like for instance, like doing backlashes out of rails and ledges and stuff. Like I like having that option, and I like doing like being able to do like the 180, like the fakie wall rides and come back in fakie, which you can do all these things with a cassette as well. But I liked kind of giving myself a new challenge and opening up like a new chapter of like tricks, like, oh, you know, like I said, just doing the backlashes out of grinds and everything and seeing what grinds I could do it out of. And even to this day, I'm still coming up with new ones for myself, not new ones in the world, but new ones for me. And I think it helped me a lot putting the coaster on, because it just kept riding fresh, you know, because the end of the day, that's what matters. You know, you want to feel good on your bike and you want to like be challenging yourself. And that's kind of what it did for me. But the funny thing is, some of the clips in Nativeland 2, I was actually riding a coaster because I had it on for a few months and then I ended up taking it off, and I ended up refilming one of the lines because I didn't like the coaster rollback, and I had to go back and redo it with a cassette. So it's funny.
Insider info right there.
Yeah.
You let something slip to me a little bit earlier that Nativeland 2 is actually the only Nativeland video that features some clips that were not actually in Southern California.
That's correct. So that time, during that time, like I said, I was really busy filming for the Vans video, and I also had dislocated my shoulder really bad, like when I was filming with Vish actually for this, and so the filming kind of got cut short because we already coordinated when it was going to come out, and unfortunately I wasn't able to film anymore for it. So we had some other footage that we had filmed for another project, and it happened to be in Las Vegas, a couple tricks in Las Vegas and one in Barstow, which is still technically California, but it's a little bit deeper. It's a little out of my realm of places that I normally film at. And we just kind of realized, like, you know what, like, we want this video, we want it to be the best it can be. And if that means having to put a couple tricks from another state, which is still only 3.5, 4 hours away from here, like, it's just going to have to happen, you know, whatever. And it was never meant to be a secret or anything, but like, then I realized, like, people didn't know it, you know, it was never actually talked about until recently. But yeah, actually another funny thing about the shoulder injury was one of the clips that I had in that part. It was like a wall ride to Fast Plant on a bank to wall. We ended up, we needed, we needed a little bit more B-roll. So while like a month after my shoulder was wrecked, we filmed, I put the same clothes on that I was wearing in the clip and went back and filmed a roll-in for it to take up a little bit more time in that video. So that's like one of the only times that I had to go out of my way to go back to film filler for a part. But, you know, you gotta, you know, it's all because of that injury. I'd never do it for any other reason.
So moving forward to a couple clips from Nativeland 2 that you said stood out to you. The first one is kind of a cool circular spot with some banked ledges in it. And you hop up 2 stairs, you do a manual to manual to manual to nose manual, then bar spin off. What do you remember about this clip?
I remember like rolling up on that spot and being like so intrigued by it, because it's like I've never seen anything like that, and I was like, dude, this thing is freaking crazy, and I had never seen any footage from it. And then I soon realized why. It's really hard to freaking ride. Like, it was really hard to figure out, like, even just hopping up the stairs and hopping on it and hopping all the gaps, it's like really funky, you know. So I started like just like hopping up and feeling whatever I could out on it, because I'm like, sometimes the spot is so cool looking that like you just need to get a trick on it. You're just like, dude, I have to do something here. Like, the spot is too cool. It's too good looking. So I kind of forced myself to figure something out there. And I remember that being really, really hard, because I would get into the nose and my back end would like swing sometimes, and I'd like kind of land in the stairs. So I kind of had to swing it back in and then land, and then the stairs were right there. And I don't normally like, dude, bar spins aren't that easy for me. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's a hard trick for me. So I don't know how it all worked out, but the one I landed the way I wanted to, I was like, bar spin, and I just threw it. And then I think back, I'm like, dude, I could have blown that clip right there if I like landed the manual nose and then went to do the bar spin and I didn't throw it, or I like missed my hands. I would have blown that clip. So it's like, it was such a gamble to do that. But like, I was just so fired up that I landed it that I just threw it. It was like a victory bar spin. So
I usually don't like the bonus bar spin at the end of a clip where it's like, you didn't need to do that. But this really works for the spot and the symmetry, the bar spin at the end of this one.
Yeah, and I'm the same way because like I've like landed tricks before and bar spun off a curb after, and I'm like, you have to cut that. I don't like the way that looks. Like, but I think for that spot it made sense because it was like quick enough and it was a little bit more than a curb, even though it was only a 2-stair.
So right after you do the this manual, the nose manual line, there is a clip where you do essentially a pocket wall ride, but there's a gap. So you do wall ride, gap, 90-degree wall ride, and then nose manual off the curb. What do you remember about this?
So that is actually at my preschool or where I went to pre-kindergarten in Huntington. Randomly, and I hadn't been through that neighborhood in a long time prior to going there to investigate, and I saw it. I was like, oh, it's really cool, like good pocket wall setup, and it had the pad after. And at that time, and still to this day, people do pocket walls for sure, but there's so much progression that still needs to happen with them, and they really, I guess they really jump out at me. Whenever I see pocket walls, I'm like, dude, I want to like figure out a new way to ride it or a new trick for it or whatever. And I remember seeing that and being like, dude, I've never seen anyone do a pocket wall ride and land in a nose. You see pocket wall rides and you see wall ride nose, but I've never seen the combination of the two. So that was pretty early on in filming for that one. And I actually had a free coaster on when I filmed that one too. So, but yeah, it was one of those things where that kind of opened up a whole new chapter of riding for me with the pocket wall stuff. Cause I had done them before, but I had never done variations of them. Since then, it's made me figure out doing like pocket wall to like the alley-oop 180 and then like double pocket wall and a couple other things. But I just think that like, I don't know, that clip really stands out to me because it like opened a chapter for me that I still feel like I'm deep in right now that I want to keep progressing in. There's still things to be done. So
I know I've said it before, but I do like how Dakota-esque of a clip this is. This is a very Dakota clip.
Yeah, thank you. I think it kind of embodies all the things that I love about riding, and that's like setups, wall rides, nose manuals. It's pretty much me as a bike trick.
One thing I like about this clip, it comes right after the nose manual clip we just talked about. And you look at this the nose manual clip, and like you said, like that's such an epic spot, you have to do something here. That spot's so incredible. And then you go right into this pocket wall ride, and to the average human being, even the average BMX rider, that's not a spot. Does that make sense? Like that's not a spot.
Oh, dude. No, it makes perfect sense. Like, and I think that's another thing that I try to do with my riding is I like trying to figure things out at things that don't really look like spots to other people, because it's like anybody, well, not anybody, but it's one thing to like go to a perfect 8-stair rail and do tricks. It's another thing to have to think outside of a box and just see 2 walls and a pad and go, okay, what the hell could I do with this? You know what I mean? So, and I think that is another thing that keeps riding interesting for me is like the whole like searching for setups and searching for weird things that don't need to make sense to anybody else. It's like, I don't care if no one else sees that as a spot. It's like, it worked for me and it worked for what I needed it to. So it's like I think tricks mean more to me when I'm able to I guess find something that no one else would think to ride and get something there, so
it kind of reminds me of a cooking show where they give the contestants random ingredients and have them make something cool. It's kind of like here's a wall and a gap and a curb cut, figure this out, and
oh dude, what's that show called? It's not what's the one where they literally give all those crazy ingredients and then they have to like come up with like a souffle somehow out of like some canned salmon. I don't know. Anyways, Iron Chef or something.
Yeah, or Master Chef. I don't know. But either way, it reminds me of that where you're like, no, and then you come through with a delicacy like this clip. So you've definitely made that one work for us.
Thank you.
So the ender in Nativeland 2 is a wall ride to 180 drop over a pretty big rail. Do you remember much about this?
Yeah, that was like early in the day. I think that spot sometimes becomes a bus later in the day. And I remember me and Vish were going to LA to meet up with like Andrew Cast and I think Ty Morrow and a couple other dudes that day. And I remember I'd been to that spot years prior, but I never looked at that setup. It just didn't really cross my mind. And then in the Van skate video, Chima Ferguson ollied over the rail and over the planter to flat. And I was like, oh my God, like, dude, I wonder if you could wall ride over that thing, you know? And I had already known where it was because I'd been to that spot before. And so we went one morning and ended up like, you know, doing the wall ride, and it worked out pretty easy. So like, I'll try the 180, you know? And it was a little bit of a battle because I like when I wall ride 180 over stuff, I like to start low on the wall and like go up and over so I could arc it instead of like jumping up high and then having to go higher and clear the rail. It was there's like a little green, if you look close, there's like a light green slab that I wall ride on, and it sticks out of the wall a little bit. So if you don't wall ride high enough, you hit the corner of it, and then you know, you're essentially casing a wall with a 10-foot drop in a rail, which I did. I'd cased it a few times. And one of the times I did the wall 180 and I caught my front wheel on the ledge at the bottom too, and like managed to like save it. I didn't get too wrecked. Like I think I fell on my back a little bit, but like didn't hit my head or anything. So that was good. But yeah. And that was, I was really stoked on that trick for sure, but that wasn't, I didn't think that was going to be my ender when I'd filmed it. But then, like I said, I got the shoulder injury and I couldn't ride anymore. So we kind of had to like default to that, which I still think is like it's not, I'm not taken away from it. Like I'm really stoked on it even to this day. But like you know, since the cards I was dealt involved my shoulder blowing out, I was like, well, I kind of got to fall back on this. So
it's a heavy clip, and you can definitely tell that you're fully compressed when you're doing the wall ride. You know, you have to, like you said, you like to wall ride up. I never thought about that until you just said that, but watching that clip, I see exactly what you're talking about. Like you're sucked up there just trying to get over that rail. That's like over bars, it looks like. That's a tall rail.
it was tall enough to be scary for sure.
Well, let's fast forward here. That was August 2015. Let's hop right to August 2017. So a little over 2 years later was Nativeland 3. So you were 30 years old at the time of the release. This one is, they get progressively longer. The first one was 320. The second one was 407. Now we're at 555. One thing that really stood out to me with Nativeland 3 is Vish was always a really good filmer, but I feel like this is the time when I was like, okay, no, Vish is one of the best filmers in BMX. I think he's been constantly progressing, and just when I actually sat back and watched these videos back to back earlier today, I was like, okay, I think this is when he really kind of fell into his own and really embraced it. And that could just be my interpretation. He might disagree, but I think Vish really, really, really nailed it with this video, and this is a really beautiful piece. What do you remember about this time in your life?
Dude, first of all, I want to agree with you 100%. It's cool, like, you know, working with Vish and seeing him as we're progressing as riders, he's progressing as a filmer. He's not like, it's cool when someone cares about what they do enough to like constantly get better at it instead of be like, well, I already know how to film, so I'm just going to keep doing it this way. It's like, no, he's like really into it. So it's badass that he cares that much to progress with the tricks and everything. But that time, I remember the filming of that one being, I really enjoyed it. I really had a good time. Calvin actually filmed a lot of that one as well. He probably filmed like a quarter of it ish. And I think Vish Vish had a lot of things going on. Like he was filming and editing a lot for a lot of different projects. I think he might even worked at Fox at the time as well. So he had other full-time gigs. So it was like, I kind of had to work with who I could for this one. I was like, yeah, and I've always been a fan of Calvin's work and I love riding with him. So it worked out well. Like we just film each other. But yeah, that one, when I think about it, I think I'm very satisfied with that part. I feel really good about it to this day. And I remember it being a fun time filming it, other than having to land on my face really, really hard one time. But other than that, it was good.
So just like in the second Nativeland, you obviously drew the graphics in this, and it looks like they were put together as kind of a cool motion graphic.
Yeah. Yep. Vish did the motion graphic, and I just like kind of drew it and gave him the piece of paper.
So not that far into this, I believe is the clip you're talking about when you hit your face on the ground really hard. It looks like
Yes.
you're going to tires on a weird rail. How bad was that? Was this?
Dude,
did
it
you
really
go back and film
sucked.
Did you get the clip that day, or was that an ender?
So I got the trick earlier in the day. And when I say earlier in the day, I mean 10 minutes prior to that. I landed it, but I didn't like the way I did the nose. It was like a tire ride on a rail to drop nose, and I didn't get steep on the nose. And so it's like, oh, I want to do it again, And I actually I ride the Colt Vans tires regularly. That's like basically the only tire I've ridden for years. But the rails were like far enough apart to where the Colt tires would fit in, the Vans tires would fit in there, So I put AK tires on because they're a little bit fatter. And I was like, oh, I have big tires on. I shouldn't get stuck in there, But sure enough, I was just pushing so hard that my front wheel got stuck and it hit the L. And there's, I don't care who you are. There's no time to put your hands out in that situation and not hit your face. So, I hit my face really hard, like right above my eye. I got a big black eye, and I didn't get knocked out or anything. I definitely saw stars, but I think I chilled for like a week after that. I needed to rest up a little, but it sucked.
So another clip in this that stood out to me, especially after our conversation about the beginning clip of Nativeland 2, is you have a clip where you do a rail hop, super steezy rail hop. You three a bump in a parking lot. You do another rail hop, and then you do a bump to manual, the foot plant 180. It's another one of those kind of trails-esque clips at a street spot. Do you remember much about that clip? Was that the type of spot you talk about looking for?
Oh, absolutely. I remember the day I stumbled upon that. I was just out spot searching, and I was just like, I kind of made a wrong turn. I was going to another spot, and I pulled into the back of a shopping center, and then there was just this gate that was open, and I'm like, I'm gonna drive through there, and there was a bunch of trash cans in the way, so I didn't really see the rail hops before I drove in. So I'm like, there's not going to be anything back here, but I just have to do it for peace of mind. Pull up, and I'm just blown away by these like perfect kickers over rail hops. And I just remember being like, dude, I gotta come back here as soon as I can, because I need to get a trick here. It's just such a cool looking spot, and it's what I'm always looking for, those types of setups. So me and Vish went back there, like, I think maybe a week after I found it. And thankfully, like, the gate was open still, and there was no cars in the way, and it was all good. So we ended up getting that line. That day was a particularly special day filming that, because I think I got 4 tricks that day that were all in the video. And anybody that films video parts knows that if you get 4 tricks for a part in one day, that's like, it takes a month or more to get 4 tricks sometimes. So having that good of luck in a day, those are days you never forget, like I remember it happened in Nativeland 4 as well. It happened in 1. I don't think it happened in 2, but it's like, I remember those days like they were yesterday, because they're so, I don't know, they're so hard to have, you just don't have them that often. But that spot really just like was calling to me. I was just like, I got to get something here. So yeah, it was a good day.
I think it's probably like a golfer getting a hole in one. Really good golfers will get a few hole in ones here and there, but you never get multiple hole in ones in one day.
Exactly. That's exactly what it feels like. And since then, I've gone back to that spot at very, very least 25 times. And every single time, the gate's either locked or there's cars in the way, so you can't ride it. Because I had other tricks in mind for it too. But I've gone back for I've gone back for I went back for Nativeland 4, and like I said, couldn't even get in there. I went back when I was filming for when did I go? Shimmer. Went back and tried to get something for the Vans video for Shimmer, and we couldn't even get in there. Same thing, but yeah. So it was like it's a unicorn spot. It was just worked out perfect that day, and since then it hasn't been hitting. So
we touched on it a little bit earlier, but this was kind of your first your first video with a lot of free coaster clips. There's a lot of backlashes in there. You're really putting it to good use versus Nativeland 2, where it was all cassette.
Yeah, for sure. I think by then I was like pretty comfortable with the free coaster. It took a while for me to really like get into it, and I think for a while I didn't like the way I looked rolling back with it. I was just like, dude, it just doesn't look powerful, you know. You don't have that back crank. But by then I'd felt pretty comfortable, and I'd started I guess trying to progress it in the ways that I could. So
let's talk about a couple standout clips. We had a conversation earlier about your rocky relationship with crank arm grinds, but you actually blessed us with another one in this video. This time we have kind of a Wally bump jump to crank arm grind down this this brown kind of ledge rail setup here. What do you remember about this clip?
I had to go cut the knobs off of it to ride it. There was like these knobs on it, like 3 of them. So I had to go cut those off like a couple of days before, and I ended up like cutting them off and then gluing them back on so they didn't look like they were gone, so no one really like would notice. And I originally, the funny thing was that wasn't in my mind to do. I wanted to do, and this clip is really funny that we're talking about this because I forgot about it till just now. Originally, I wanted to do a Wally to tire slide down the rail, like Wally to topside tire slide. And I went there and I did it, or I thought I did it. But Vish ended up bringing the footage back and watching it like a while after. And he's like, dude, I got some bad news for you. I'm like, what? He's like, dude, you did the Wally, but you didn't do the tire slide. Your tire hit the side of the rail. It didn't go on top. And we didn't notice it when we were watching it on the camera, but he noticed it when he put it on the computer. So that clip never saw the light of day because it didn't really happen. And I tried to go back and get it, and I couldn't get over top of it enough. It wasn't long enough to get my back wheel up there. So I was like, thought about Wally crank arm. I was like, dude, like that's another trick that I hadn't seen. If I had seen it, the only other person that I saw do it was like Eric Lichtenberger, one of my best friends. And always like motivated by his riding and his like unique style and approach. And I don't know, I just figured that would be, if there's any setup to do it on, like a real street spot, that would be it. So I started trying it, and it ended up not being as scary as I thought it would be once I actually got myself to commit to it, and it worked pretty quickly. But it's funny because, like, again, I'm not really a crank arm guy, but like sometimes things just jump out, even if they're not your expertise, and they end up working out. So it's pretty stoked on that one still.
Another one that really stood out to me when I first watched this video was a combo on a kinked rail. You do a double peg, and on the second, on the final down of the rail, you do over crook to 180. Do you remember what I'm talking about here? What do you remember about that clip?
Dude, that was like probably one of the most iconic days of BMX I've ever been a part of. So Dan Lacey, Rich Forn, gosh, so many people. That crew was insane. It was like Nathan, Garrett, Dan Lacey, Christian Regal. Like, it was like a BMX dream team crew that day. It was the same day Dan Lacey 360 that massive gap in his monster video and Beyond, his Ender. And we were all so fired up that he did that we're like, dude, we just got to keep riding, you know? So we ended up going to that kink trail, and it was down the street from that spot. And Nathan had gotten something on it, and I want to say a couple things had gone down on it, and it was just a good session. And I was like, dude, I'm like fired up. I want to try something, you know? And I don't even know if I've ever even done that trick before. And I definitely haven't done it since then. Like, nor would I even in any other case think to try a Predator with an overcrook on a kink trail. It's like, that's not like, I'm not confident in that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like that kind of rail stuff is scary to me, but it was just a perfect storm because there was so much motivation that day. And there was like so many cool people in such a small area that I'm like, dude, I'm too fired up. I got to try this. And it worked pretty quickly actually. And Rich filmed it really well. And I was honored to have him contribute, you know, some filming to this project. And it was just a special day for sure.
Another one that really stands out is the long ice pick down the Yellow Kink Trail. It's one hell of an ice pick grind. Do you remember much about that day?
I do. So that was either the second or third time I went to that rail to try and ice it. The first time, for some reason, that area of California gets so stinking windy in the middle of the day almost every day. Like, so windy that you can't balance. You know what I mean? You're just like, I'm going to jump on this rail and get blown off of it. So showed up. We tried riding it. I think I was with Nathan and Corey and Vish that day. And we just didn't have any luck because it was so windy. But then Vish and I had gone back to it like a month later, and we went early in the morning, so there wasn't any wind. So that was like one of those tricks where it was like, we already had it planned out that we were just going to go get that. We're like, you know, nothing else on the agenda that day. Just show up early and try this as many times as it's going to take to get it, and then celebrate after. You know what I mean? So thankfully, the wind was calm, and we just showed up, and I just started trying it. And I think that one probably took like an hour or an hour and a half that day. And the most annoying part was you had to walk up those stairs every time you didn't make it. So it's like, dude, like, I don't want to walk up these stairs anymore. And Vish actually scared me because after I landed it and I rolled away, he played a joke on me. He was like, I rolled away, and then I'm like so relieved that I landed it. And then I'm coming back around. He's like, all right, dude, you got it. Next try for sure. Next try. And I'm like, what do you mean that was it? He's like, no, I'm just kidding, dude. And it made me doubt whether or not I actually did it or not, which was strange because I knew I did it. But it was just like, I was in like high adrenaline stage or whatever. And it just got confusing, and he scared the hell out of me.
Well, you never know with ice picks. It could have been on camera. It could have looked like your front wheel touched or something, you know?
Exactly. That's what I was worried about. I was like, dude, I normally ice pretty high. I hope my front wheel didn't touch something, but yeah.
No, and I'm watching it back right now. It's not even close. Your front wheel's really high. I always really liked your ender in this, the double peg off the roof. What do you remember about this crazy double peg off the roof?
What I remember from that was we had already planned the premiere of the video for a week after we had filmed this, and I didn't have it yet. I didn't do the trick yet. And it lands into Beach Boulevard, which is like one of the most major streets in Southern California. It's like, what is it? 1, 2, 3. It's like at least 6 lanes wide, and there's always traffic on it, always cars. So we had to get up super early. I think we got there at like 7 a.m. to get that. And even that was almost too late. Because by the time I landed it, there was a lot of cars coming, you know, like it was, and you know, it's pretty nerve wracking. You're up on a roof. People are wondering what you're doing up there. There's all these cameras and all these people standing in the street. So you're drawing a crowd, and and cars are coming. So it's like, dude, it's just a lot of stuff going on. But the first time I did it, I grinded and I landed and I was leaning too far back. So I put my hand down and I think I broke my pinky actually, but I had to do it. I was like, Vish, I was like, I got like 5 minutes before this thing starts like really, really hurting. So I got to get back up on the roof and do it. I don't even care. So got back up there and it ended up working second try, thankfully. But it was scary because there's like those like electrical boxes and a pole and the ledge. And it's just like, when you were up there, it was like definitely mess with your mind. Cause you're like, I'm grinding onto a busy road over an electrical box with a pole. And I don't know if this thing's going to stick at the end and I'm just going to go somersaulting to flat. Like, but I'm just really thankful it worked out. And I was thankful. Like, so Vish obviously came out and filmed it. Calvin came out and filmed it. Robbie came and stood in the street and blocked traffic for me. And a couple other friends were there to like make sure that like everything went smoothly. So, and
looks like
2 minutes after
Sean Ricani handing your bike up to you when you're up there.
Yeah. So, and 2 minutes after the cops showed up and they were like, dude, were you up on a roof? And I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry. And they're like, oh, it's all good. We just kept getting calls that you were on the roof. So we didn't know what was going on, but so it went smooth. And we celebrated with some waffles after. I do remember that.
You know, it's very impressive. It's very impressive to get a legitimate squad of BMX dudes together that early in the morning.
Oh, dude, 100%. That's why I'm so thankful. And it was a Sunday. So it's like, you know, it's hard enough on any other day, but like, you know, dudes might've been partying the night before or something, but everybody pulled through and showed up and we made it happen. So yeah, it's like you said, it's like, it's you know, I'm very thankful for that.
So September 2017 was Nativeland 3 and Nativeland 4 just dropped August 2020. That was almost a 3-year gap. What do you attribute that to? Just being busy with other projects?
Yeah, 100%. The last couple years prior to COVID, traveling has picked up like tremendously. I was going to all the pro cups because I was helping judge, and we were filming for the Vans video Shimmer. I got married. What else? I'm trying to think what other projects. Some stuff with cinema. Like this one, I feel like I wasn't even planning on doing a Nativeland 4. I figured I was like, 3 is good. That's like a trilogy. You know what I mean? The Nativeland trilogy. It sounded cool to me in my head. And then, I don't know, we started filming again. We actually started filming like 2 years ago for it. But then a bunch of stuff came up and I was traveling. So we didn't really film for like a solid year from there. And then we started filming again the end of last summer for it. And so the momentum started picking up again. And then the stuff that I'd filmed the year prior, like, I don't even want this in my part anymore, you know, like it's kind of like old now. I did keep a couple things. A few of them were I did a nose manual to 180 backlash down a handrail. That was really early on. And also a wall ride 180 to backwards grind on a ledge. Those two were probably the only ones that I kept from that time. And then the rest was all filmed within the last 11 months. And, the first like couple months of filming, I'd just gotten like finished with, you know, getting married and the wedding and all that planning. So I was like fired up to like get back into it and start filming. And so we just started like going to town, and then COVID hits, and then it's like, you could look at it 2 ways, you know, it's either like, you know, this is like a bummer. I can't travel. I can't do anything, like, and not trying to be selfish, you know, cause like, I know how gnarly it is out there for everybody. It's not just, obviously not just us, but, or you try and turn a bad situation into a good one. And hit up Vish and be like, hey dude, let's keep cracking at this video, you know, like let's, and from the beginning, him and I were driving separate, and we weren't even in the same car together. We were trying to be as safe as possible. And things started working out really, really well because no one was out. We were filming at these buildings and nobody was there. So we were getting tricks like way quicker than we normally would. And I wasn't traveling at all. So I was 100% of my focus was going to this video. So it really ramped up. And I had a lot of things in mind that I wanted to get for it. And I was exploring a lot. I was doing a lot of spot searching during that time. So it was like kicked into like super overdrive, like full 100% passion, 100% drive. And yeah, it was, yeah, I'm really stoked on how it turned out.
Now, is this graphic that your name is written in, is that something that you created?
Yes.
It's different than your traditional font.
Oh, wait, you're talking about, I'm sorry. No, my name, that's just Old English.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah. The actual Nativeland graphic with the poppy flowers, that's all my own. I did that on my own. And I even did that's the first motion graphic that I've ever done as well. So yeah.
You actually did the animating in that.
I did the animating in that. Yeah. I did it on my iPad in stop motion. So I just kind of drew it, and then I drew a couple different frames of the poppy growing, and obviously the words and the number coming in. And I don't know, I was pretty stoked on how it turned out. And then Vish was like, dude, you should make the flowers turn orange at the end. So I figured out how to do that too. And it was just cool. You know, it's like, it's cool learning new stuff and being able to apply those things to things that you're already passionate about.
Yeah, no, that definitely stood out at me as a cool graphic, and I just assumed that Vish did it. So that's cool to hear that you did it.
Right on.
So your first clip that actually has your name over it is a ditch spot, and it's basically a really big wall ride drop. What can you tell us about that clip?
I could tell you that was so much scarier than I thought it was going to be. It was terrifying, and I couldn't figure out why, but it all makes sense now. It's because normally when you wall ride something with a drop, you can see where you're going to land and you're able to visualize it more. This is literally a kicker. And from where I was, when I worked it out in my head, I was like, dude, this is like so deceiving, because the rounded top, it was throwing off my perception, and it was making it seem like it was lower to the ground than it really was. When I actually factored in where my tires were going to go and the drop, it's 12 feet. It was a 12-foot drop. Yeah. So I realize, I'm pretty sure when I do wall rides and wall rides to drops, like 12 feet's kind of like the max for me. Anything more than that, it's like the chances of me holding on are really slim. And so I was having a hard time getting myself to try that, to be honest. Like I don't like to take a lot of run-ups at stuff because it spooks me more than it helps me. Dude, I took like 30 or 40 run-ups before I tried it. And then I tried it and I landed and I bounced. And then I was like, I have to do this again. Like, this sucks, you know? And because I had bounced off my bike. I didn't even land it. And so I got back up there, and it took me a while to even try it again. And then when I did, I landed it second try, but it's the one that's in the video. And even then I landed and I bounced. Like, it's just like, it was right at like the level where it was like, I was free falling for so long that it was hard to like brace for my landing in the time that I normally would, because I couldn't spot my landing. So I braced a little too early. So I was dropping for a long time like this, instead of like evening out and then like dropping my back wheel. So yeah, it was really scary. And I was like, dude, I'm not doing this again. We're just going to have to run it. Like, I know I landed a little weird, but sometimes I think I prefer those landings in videos, because it shows like, yeah, dude, this was hard for me. You know, this was scary for me. So you get what you get sometimes.
I definitely like the rough landing on it because it emphasizes how crazy it is. If you would have landed both tires same time, perfect, and rolled away, I probably would have been like, that was cool. But after actually seeing you, it looks like a crazy high speed stunt, you know?
That's kind of why it's like it looked loose enough to be enjoyable, you know. And I think back on probably the biggest wall ride drop I've ever done was in my Talk is Cheap part. It was my Ride BMX cover that I had. Um, I landed and I bobbled too, but it wasn't like the same kind of bounce. But like, I think, dude, you almost have to just embrace that that's what happens, because essentially when you do a wall ride, you're this way, and then you have to land this way, and your body and your bike pivot. So it goes from there to there. So it's like, it's really hard to do that with a big drop and still land two tires and roll away, you know? So yeah, that or I'm making
Simple
excuses.
Physics. Simple physics. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
There's a clip in here that you had mentioned you liked, I also like. You ice pit grind a very long ledge to wall ride. Tell me about this clip. COVID clip.
Yeah. So that is in a business complex that in no way would you ever be able to ride on a normal day, even on a weekend. There's so much security there. And it's not like there's that much there, but there's a bunch of ledges and a bunch of weird angles and stuff. So it's like, if you had time to come up with something there, you definitely could. And in the very beginning of like the lockdown, when I was out spot searching solo, I pulled up and I was like, oh my God, dude, like this long ledge to wall. It's like such a good setup. And the only thing that was bad about it was right in the middle, there was like a big chunk out of the ledge. You know, sometimes when they make the ledges, they notch it. So there's this massive notch. And I'm like, dude, like, I would love to try this ice pick to wall ride, but this notch is here and whatever. And, but since everything was shut down and no one was there, I just went one morning and I just bondoed the hole. Just went there. I just put some Bondo in there and I hit up Vish. And I think that might've been, I want to say that's the first thing him and I filmed during COVID actually was that was like pretty early on. That was like a couple weeks in, because like I said, we were trying to take it serious, you know, like we were being distant. And even then he drove separate. We didn't even fist bump after I did it or anything. Like it was just like, it was so early on that we didn't know what the hell was going on. But I realized that day that I was like, dude, like we really got to take advantage of this. You know, we got to take advantage of the fact that we could ride these spots that we normally would never be able to ride, you know? So, and I actually went back the other day to check it out, and the Bondo's still there, but the buildings are back open. So good luck if you guys want to go get it.
So right after that clip, you have a pretty cool, good use of spot clip where you hit a kind of like a wedge to wall, 180 Smith to 180 Smith. Tell me about this one.
I had that in mind to do for a long time before I actually did it. I had found that spot a couple years ago and I was like, dude, that's such a good like launch to wall. It'd be perfect to do the wall 180 Smith, you know? And originally that's what I was going there for, was wall ride 180 Smith. And then you just land fakie and pull it, you know? But when I was doing it, I was like, oh, I could probably like switch to the like forward Smith, you know, like wall 180 Smith. And that's what I did. But, then I did that and I did it a couple times and it was working really good. So I'm like, oh dude, I'm going to try and do wall 180 Smith 180. Cause I'm like, I already did the first part. I could only add to it now. And, I tried that for like 2.5 hours and I could not do the Smith 180 because the ledge is like super gritty and chunky and it wasn't letting me slide enough to get like a pop on the 180. And then I started realizing, I was like, dude, it's like sometimes there's too much gravy on the dinner when you're adding too many tricks on top of one another. And I went back and I watched just the wall 180 Smith and I was like, I think I like the way this looks better than doing another 180. It's just going to be like, it's going to be confusing if I just keep throwing stuff in there. So, so I ended up just taking that and I still really like that trick though. And that day was super strange because that is the most fatigued I have ever gotten from trying a trick in my whole life. And I don't really know why. I know it took a long time, but I got like physically ill for like a day and a half after trying that one for so long. And it was super strange. Like I got like almost like the flu from trying a trick. Like I got a flu induced or a trick induced flu. So so it stands out for that reason too.
My favorite clip in this whole video is the one where you're adding a wedge to wall, you do a 180 up to 180 back, wall ride to 180 in. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I love that clip, man. So I was, this came out last week, and I was actually on a trip with Nick Bruce. And Nick was in the middle of doing something important, and I literally had to pull him away and like, hey, man, just ignore your phone call for a second and watch this one clip, because this clip, just the symmetry of it is just so perfect. It's just an awesome clip. Is there anything, like, was this a long one to get, or is this just something that looks awesome?
I really appreciate that. And tell Nick that I said thank you for, you know, getting off the phone and watching a trick. You know, that means a lot. But yeah, that's one of my favorites too. And I didn't realize it was one of my favorites until we started editing the video. And even with like the few people that we had showed in the editing process, like, and when I say few, I mean like literally like 2 or 3 people only, all of them had like, you know, had a reaction to it. And like, not like saying like, oh dude, that's like making me think higher of myself, but more so like, there's something about that spot. And it's like, I think it has to do with what you're saying. It's like the symmetry of it and the way it looks and the angles and everything. You don't find spots like that, like ever. Like, I don't know if I've ever found anything like that other than that. So, and I didn't even know what I wanted to do there. I had found it and then went back with Vish like 2 weeks later. And we had already gotten one other trick that day. And I can't remember what it is off the top, but I remember that was like, that day was going good too. So I was like, let's keep it going, you know, let's go to this ditch spot. And I started doing the 180 up and feeling out the wall. And it was really hard to figure out because the bank was really steep and I had to go really fast. And then when I would land, I was going so fast that I couldn't snap out and do the rollout. That's why, like, in the video, there's a clip of me running down the bank because I tried to snap and I was going so fast that it pushed my front wheel into the ground and I almost like endoed. So I had to figure it out. And when it worked, even when I was rolling away, it happened so quick and it was so like pop, pop, pop that I was like, was that it? Like, did I do it? Do I have to do it again? But yeah, I'm really stoked on that one. I think that's going to be something that I remember as like one of my favorite tricks that I've had from the series for sure.
It's very powerful. It's proper use of the spot, and it just looks good. You're going fast. Everything about it is just perfect. It's a perfect clip, which is a rare thing to find in BMX.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the last 2 clips in this. So your second to last clip is a really cool roof trick. You essentially do a bump jump to over feeble 270 in, and then 180 off the roof. And this is just, once again, the opposite 270 right into your normal 180. The back and forth looks really cool, and it's just really, really good spot usage, a really cool spot to begin with. What do you remember about this?
So I had found that spot like probably 2 months before I went there and filmed it with Vish. And I maybe even longer. It might have been a while before that. But I remember that was another spot that I'd found, and I'm like, this looks really cool. I don't know what I want to do on it, but I want to get something, you know? So so I think me and Vish showed up there randomly on a Sunday, and there was like cars in the parking lot and there was people there. So we're like, dude, it's just not going to work. You know, like we saw some kids that were skating, they got kicked out, and it's just like, dude, this sucks, whatever. And Vish ended up having like some other stuff going on that day. So I was like, dude, just like go do what you have to. I'll come back and check it out like later in the day. And if it's like a go, I'll call you. Maybe you can come back out. And sure enough, I drove around and I searched for a little bit that day, came back in the afternoon. No one was there. Gate was open, ready to go. And I called Vish, and he was back in Long Beach by then. And this spot's in like kind of like southeastern Orange County area. And I hit him up. I was like, hey, dude, like, we're good. Let's do it. And so, yeah, he drove back from Long Beach, and, you know, it's like a 30, 45-minute drive. Showed up. I was already like on the roof checking it out, like getting ready to do it. And yeah. And then I started doing the bump feeble 3, and I didn't know if I was going to like just drop off the roof after, or if I was going to be able to like 180. I didn't know what was going to happen. And the first time I did the bump feeble 3, I was just in the position, I'm like, I'm just 180ing. And I just like thought of it like in that instant. And I almost landed it first try, but the 180 was like decent enough size drop to where like when I landed, I think I flew off my bike. I didn't fall, but like I like just bounced off. And I think I had to do the 180 3 or 4 times before I landed it. But right before that go, one of my best friends, Cody, showed up because he had asked where I was, and I told him where I was. And he comes around the corner like literally as I'm about to do it. So he was there when I made it, and it just like in the clip, you know, I go up and like we hug and everything, and it was just like, I don't know, it worked out really cool that it all happened like that, and he was there for that. So also,
I like video. Go ahead.
Sorry, another thing about that spot is when I'd found it a while back, I told one of my friends that's a pro skateboarder, Dane Berman, about it, and he actually got there before me and got a trick on it like months prior to me doing anything. So in his last zero part, you could see him. He skates the ledge into the roof and then drops off. So him and I have shared a couple roof clips in the past, so it's kind of cool.
I like clips like this where when I'm sitting here watching the video, I just assume it's your ender. And I'm like, hell yeah, that's a solid ender. That was really badass. And then the video goes on, you hug Cody, like, yeah, cool. What a good ending, good feeling. And then you got one more clip, unexpected, you know, and you know, what the hell are you going to do to one up that? But you come through with a crazy wall ride pocket combo, back to what you were talking about with Nativeland 2, I believe, and just totally take it to the next level. So you have wall ride to gap pocket wall ride. So tell us about this. This is another one of those spots, and this doesn't look like a spot. This doesn't look like it should be a place where this type of riding should take place on.
Yeah. So, yeah, this trick means a lot to me actually, because randomly found it while riding around back in like November of 2019. So a little less than a year ago. And I was like, oh my God, like, dude, you can do a pocket wall, gap wall here. I've never seen this setup in my whole life. Like, and I look for this type of stuff all the time. Even to this day since then, I have not seen that setup again. And there's like the cool little curb cut on the way in. So it gives you that extra little bump to get up there. And I was like, dude, this is amazing. I have to try this, you know? But the crazy thing about it was, and I didn't realize it until I started getting into it, was since it's not a 90-degree first wall, it made the second wall more than a 90-degree. So you have to do a wall ride and over rotate. It's past 90. So basically you're doing this wall ride to wall ride, and then you have to yank like harder than you were. Sorry, you got to yank harder than you would if you were going to do like a wall ride 180 to keep your bike in that position. And I learned that really quickly when I was just basically doing this wall ride and slamming into a wall with my elbow super hard. And it got dark that day, the first day that I was trying it, and didn't end up making it. I went back there 5 times, I think, total before I ended up landing it. Every other time I would try for like 15 or 20 minutes, and then we get kicked out. And I at one point I was even like wearing a long sleeve when I was trying it with with one of those elbow gaskets over my elbow because I was hitting my elbow on the wall so hard that like I literally thought I was going to break my elbow because I'm essentially doing a pocket wall ride and yanking and running into a wall. It's not like it would be like, oh, my tires would hit and then it'd go to my elbow. Like I was literally wall riding into my elbow. So, and then even the day that I landed it, it was so crazy because we showed up in the afternoon, and I took a different runway in than I was the prior tries. And, it ended up working way better going that way. And it all just came together. It was like, almost like, the best way I could describe it is like, it was like a Rubik's Cube and I was sitting there turning things and finally all the colors lined up. And then it was like, oh, I know what I'm doing now. And then I did one and I think I put my foot down. And then I think the next one I landed it. And back to what we were talking about earlier, when like you do like a bar spin off of a curb after you do something, I almost freaking bar spun off the curb after. And I'm so glad I didn't. It would have literally ruined the clip. It would have ruined the clip. I had to like land it and I was so excited. I had to tell myself, just put your head down. Just put your head down right off the curb. So like you could see it in the video. I literally put my head down and roll away until like I'm far enough away to like put my head up. And then I like jump off my bike. And it was like, dude, I was just so relieved because when you battle something for that long and you go back to a spot that many times and you finally make it, it's like there's no better feeling, there really isn't. So
it's funny watching this clip and hearing you talk about going to war with this trick, because like you said, it was so hard to figure out. Once you figured it out, like this, it looks just like it works. Like in your clip, it looks like if you were like, oh no, this was like first or second try, you could have convinced me. Because it looks so good. It looks like you have it all figured out. It's crazy to think about. We talk about that first wall ride in this where you land and it just looks crazy. So it's cool that it looks crazy. This almost just looks like perfect. Like it just works once you dissect the science and figure it out.
And even like when I landed it, Vish was like, dude, based on all the other tries, he's like, dude, I did not think it was going to look that fluent. I thought like you were going to have to take one where you like kind of splatted or whatever. And I was surprised too, because like I said, almost every single one, I was just slamming into the wall, whether it be my pegs, my elbow, my tires, whatever. Like I got broke for that one. So when everything lined up and I was able to roll away and it worked as good as it did, I was like, oh my God, like it just happened. Like, hallelujah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those where it's worth it. You know what I mean? When it all works out like that, it's like you're not crazy. You looked at this and thought this should work, and it worked perfect. Like, you have the architecture behind this. You understood it, and you could break it down in your brain and be like, this will work for this trick.
Took a couple hundred tries, but it happened. That's all that matters.
So that was Nativeland 4. So looking back at what we've got so far, do you have a favorite of these videos?
4 is my favorite. For sure. I feel like this is some of my best work in general when it comes to video parts. Like, I feel like this part will probably stay in my top 3, in my opinion, of my own parts, probably like my top 3 favorite video parts I've ever done. And I think it's because, between like taking a bad situation and trying to make it as good as I can, like not being able to travel because of COVID and not being able to like be, in Europe with my friends over there filming and stuff, like basically like channeling all that energy into this part. And also like, I don't know, like just ticking some boxes, you know what I mean? Like another trick we didn't talk about that I want to just throw in there real quick is like, for instance, like the the 180 grind to turn down to fakie manual on the outledge. Like that was like a dream trick. And I don't mean to sound crazy when I say that, but like, dude, I have tricks that come to mind that like I think about so much before I actually go try them that like sometimes they just happen to work because I already mentally went through them. Like that one was one of them. I was like, this could either work exactly like I think it's going to in my head, or it could just not make any sense, because I don't even know if I've ever even done a freaking turn down to manual going forward in my life, but it's just something about it. It's just like, it might work. So I don't know. I think when you factor in like those things, as well as like just ticking a couple boxes that of tricks I've always wanted to get, like, it's just like, this one means a whole lot to me. So yeah.
So we got 4 amazing videos that were released over 6 years. Will there be 5 and beyond?
I think at this point, I'm like 90% sure there'll be a 5, and that'll probably be it. But the hard thing is, like, by the time I'm done filming for these, I'm really tapped out on spots. You know, California is endless as far as spots go, if you put in the work and you put in the time to find them. But like this one, I really like tapped into like almost everything that I knew. So I'm going to have to, if I start getting like some more spots that kind of start showing up in a short amount of time, I'll start working on the next one. No problem. But yeah, I'd like to cap it at 5. I think that would be a cool series, you know, and then maybe start something else. So.
Well, Dakota, those are 4 incredible videos. Thank you for the insight, and thank you for what's to come in the future.
Appreciate the time, Kyle. You're the man. Thank you.